Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for attending our press conference today with Paxton Smith and with me. I'm attorney Gloria Allred. I'll be making a statement, and then Paxton Smith will be making a statement, and then we will both be happy to answer any questions. If you do have a question, please hit Q&A instead of chat, and then we will answer your questions. Today, the United States Supreme Court heard oral argument in the case of Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization. In this case, Mississippi has banned abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy, with only a few minor exceptions. Mississippi's law is a direct challenge to the 1973 Supreme Court decision Roe v. Wade, in which the United States Supreme Court decided that a woman has a constitutional right to choose abortion and that a state may not ban abortion until the fetus is viable, which is generally considered to be at 25 or 26 weeks of pregnancy. In short, the state of Mississippi is seeking to overturn or reverse Roe v. Wade before the fetus is viable, which is not permitted under Roe v. Wade. I am one of millions of women who became pregnant before Roe v. Wade became the law of the land. My pregnancy resulted from a rape at gunpoint by a doctor in Mexico. At that time, abortion was a crime in many states, including but not limited to California. As a result, I, like many women, had to seek a back alley abortion. I found someone who was not a medical doctor to do it. After the abortion, I developed a 106-degree fever from the infection and almost died. I had to be taken to the hospital and was packed in ice while I was hemorrhaging. That is why I am so committed to keeping abortion safe, legal, affordable, and available. If the United States Supreme Court reverses Roe v. Wade, women will have difficult choices. They may have to risk their lives with back alley abortions, or they may be forced against their will to take their pregnancy to term. Those who will be hurt the most, as was pointed out this morning, will be poor women and women of color. This is true because, as was stated, it is much riskier for a poor woman of color in Mississippi to give birth than to have a legal abortion. The justices did not make a decision in this case this morning, but I have many reasons to be concerned that the majority will decide either to reverse Roe v. Wade or significantly gut it so that it is rendered meaningless. If that happens, it will trigger many states to criminalize abortion or restrict the right to choose legal abortion so that access to it will be impossible for poor women, young women, women of color, and rural women. This means that this decision is literally a life-changing and potentially life and death decision for women that will be made by the United States Supreme Court. I am not optimistic about their decision, but I am optimistic that pro-choice women and pro-choice men know what is at stake and that we will continue to fight for our rights in every state and not remain silent in the face of any decision that threatens to restrict or undermine our right to control our bodies and our lives. I look forward to continuing to fight for our rights with Paxton Smith, who so bravely spoke out in support of a woman's right to choose legal abortion when she was high school valedictorian at her graduation in Texas in June of this year. In October 2021, she spoke out with me at the Women's March to support choice in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills. Although she is young, she knows the importance of fighting for our rights, and I look forward to continuing our work together to preserve and vindicate our rights on this critical issue. And now I'm very honored to present Paxton Smith.
Thank you, Gloria. The Mississippi case has the potential to determine the future of reproductive rights in our country. The outcome of this case could lead to millions of women being stripped of the basic right to decide how it is that they live their lives. Thousands of women could be forced to have children against their will. That's a very dystopian reality to imagine. A world where life-changing decisions are taken out of the hands of women and where half of the population's lives are dictated by the personal beliefs of a few. This is America. This is supposed to be the land of the free, but we are on the cusp of that land of the free being a thing of the past.
Thank you very much, Paxton. And now, if you would like to hit the Q&A, we will be happy to answer questions. We'll wait for your questions, which hopefully will come in just a few minutes. Meanwhile, I'm holding up this sign. We won't go back. And we have seen many, many similar signs at the women's marches in Los Angeles, where we spoke at City Hall, and in Beverly Hills, where there was a wonderful rally in October, again, in support of a woman's right to choose. So while we are awaiting the questions, let me ask you, Paxton, how do you feel that this is going to, if Roe v. Wade is reversed or, severely gutted, as I said, how do you feel, especially, that it will affect the women in your state, in Texas? And I know you're still going to college in Texas, right? And how do you feel that it will affect other young women, especially?
I think similar to the way that the Texas abortion ban is already affecting women. Well, Texas abortion ban violates Roe v. Wade and the Supreme Court precedent, but there's going to be a lot of young women who, like you said, are going to be put in very difficult situations where they can either be forced to have a child against their will, or they can try to travel outside of the state, or if they simply don't have the resources for that, they might be in a situation where they risk their lives to have a back alley abortion.
Mm-hmm. And when you gave your speech as a valedictorian in support of choice, and you had obviously torn up your approved speech and gave this very brave speech unexpectedly in support of choice, did you find that your classmates were, for the most part, in support of you and your passionate speech in support of choice?
Yes, they were very, very supportive. It actually came as quite a shock to me, but I guess it shouldn't have come as a shock, considering that the majority of Americans believe that abortion should be legal and accessible in most or all circumstances.
Mm-hmm. And so I know you didn't have a chance to see the argument this morning, or rather to hear it, because it could not be seen unless you were in the courtroom, and actually most people were not allowed in the courtroom because of COVID restrictions. But the audio was available and it still can be heard online. What were you doing this morning?
I was studying for finals. This is finals week for me.
Well, I'm glad that you were, and we appreciate your taking time to be here, because we know there's a lot of pressure when there are finals, and you can certainly hear their argument later after you finish with your finals. Do you have any thoughts about why politicians may be trying to ban the right to choose abortion? 15 weeks in Mississippi, as you say, 6 weeks under that terrible SB 8 law in Texas. You can't get an abortion after 6 weeks, and most women don't even know if they're pregnant until after 6 weeks. You have any thoughts about why elected officials, politicians may be trying to do that to women?
I do have some thoughts, and I've heard a lot of theories about why, but I don't necessarily have a set, clear view of why somebody would want to do something like that to half of their constituents.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any plans to possibly do anything more on the right to choose abortion, for example, in January, when it'll be the anniversary of Roe v. Wade?
Yes, on Roe v. Wade, Gloria is plugging our book right now. Gloria and I are working together on a book called A War on My Body, which will be coming out in January. That is going to highlight the many different perspectives surrounding abortion, giving a platform to voices that are not always heard when we talk about this issue, but are absolutely essential voices to be heard. And all of the proceeds from that will be donated to the Afia Center, which is a nonprofit that addresses the racial disparity in access to reproductive health care and reproductive resources.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And you plan to be in which city on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade in January?
I can't say for sure right now.
Okay. All right. And but we'll be somewhere, and we'll be speaking out in support of choice. Do you have any plans, perhaps, if your schedule allows, to go to any other states who might be trying to outlaw abortion in violation of Roe v. Wade?
Potentially.
Potentially.
I can't give much more details past that at this point in time.
All right. Okay. So at this point, do you think that maybe you will, though, be considering testifying at legislatures in other states?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And of course, I'll be happy to go with you if I'm invited to go, and we'll just march in there together. And you understand that it's a very volatile issue, right? And people have strong feelings on both sides. What would you say to people who have religious views that, you know, that somehow women should not have the right to choose abortion because, you know, they think that there is, you know, that women should, you know, that it's somehow that their rights are not important or as important as a fetus's rights?
Mm-hmm. I think that that is a matter of personal belief, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with having your own personal beliefs. That's a good thing, but you should not, no one should be forced to live their lives in compliance with somebody else's beliefs. Live your life in accordance with your own. And if you don't agree with abortion, no one's forcing you to have an abortion. No one is advocating for you personally to have an abortion. We're just advocating for everyone to have a choice and to have control over what they do with their own lives.
So you're saying that those who have religious beliefs against abortion do not have to choose to have an abortion, right? But are you saying that they shouldn't choose to interfere with your legal right to choose abortion if that's what you decide that is important for you?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, in other words, if they say, well, that's murder, that you're murdering a fertilized egg if you have an abortion after 6 weeks, what would you say to them?
That's your personal belief. I don't share that personal belief.
Okay. And so you can respect their personal belief, but you don't share it. And do you think their religious beliefs should be made into law?
No. No.
Okay. All right. So that's in answer to the question that I asked you earlier, I'll share my thoughts about why certain people would like to pass laws restricting abortion. My thoughts are that they are interested in controlling women because if they can control a woman and her right to choose abortion, or her right not to choose abortion, if they can control women, then they have that they have won points with their constituency, In other words, a lot of people, politicians, want to appeal to what they consider their base. And for some politicians, they think their base are people who have religious views that abortion should not be allowed in this country. So in order for them to get elected or reelected, so for their base political reasons and for the reason that they want to further their political career or start a political career, they will also say they're against the right to choose abortion. And so it's really, for their own personal futures that they're deciding this rather than what is in the best interests of women and girls. Do you have any predictions about what this Supreme Court might do?
I have hopes that that Roe v. Wade will be upheld and that the Mississippi law will be overturned or blocked. From speaking with a lot of professionals who have been working for reproductive rights to advance reproductive rights for decades, a lot of them are predicting that Roe v. Wade will get overturned. And potentially, as I said before, millions of women will lose the right to decide how it is that they live their lives.
Yes, I share their concern. And as was pointed out in the argument this morning before the United States Supreme Court, that certain legislators in Mississippi, also Texas, indicated that because former President Trump said that he would only appoint to vacancies on the Supreme Court, or rather nominate potential appointments to the Supreme Court of people who are against the right to choose abortion, that those legislators think that now, because that is in fact what happened, and that these 3 justices that former President Trump appointed and were confirmed are now that they're on the Supreme Court, that they will vote to reverse Roe v. Wade, and that they will be joined by other anti-choice justices who were then already seated on the Supreme Court. So for example, Justice Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch as well. So that is what they need, is a 5-4 majority to overturn Roe v. Wade. And as was pointed out this morning, precedents such as Roe v. Wade, which have been affirmed many times since 1973 by this US Supreme Court, really should not be overturned just because of new justices who were appointed and nominated and then confirmed to the Supreme Court by an anti-choice president, because then it seems as though precedent doesn't matter. Stare decisis, we call it in the law. It's a Latin phrase meaning let the decision stand, and that it just will depend on which way the winds are blowing, and therefore it will undermine confidence in what should be a neutral Supreme Court, and that it would mean that precedents can be upset. Long affirmed precedents on which the public has relied simply because of new political appointees. This is a grave threat to the integrity of the Supreme Court, to the institution, something that Chief Justice Roberts has long been concerned about. So anyway, it's just another way of saying we are concerned, we in the pro-choice movement, but we have to do more than be concerned. We have to not be silent in the face of injustice. We have to stand up and fight for our rights. We have to go to the state houses and the courthouses and the streets, and we have to lobby and picket and elect pro-choice members of Congress and members of state legislatures. Another way of saying that I hope when you're finished college, you will be one of those people who will run for elected office, and that you'll have a brilliant political career. if you do, and you'll continue to be the leader that you are on choice. Do you have any last words before we conclude this press conference?
I think you summed it up pretty well, Gloria. If you are concerned about this issue and you want to do something about it, the worst thing that you could possibly do is stay silent. We need to be making noise about this. We need to be talking about it. We need to be putting pressure on our legislators to make pass legislation that values us as human beings. And we need all hands on deck, man, woman, non-binary, everybody needs to be in, because we're talking about human rights here for half of our population. Everybody should care about that.
I 100% agree. Couldn't say it better. We want to thank everybody for attending today. And Paxton, I know you're going to go back to studying. Thank you so much for taking time out for this extremely important issue. You certainly have your priorities right. And we're very, very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And everybody, we won't go back. Have a good day.